Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of From. Great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So picking up in the aftermath of last episode, we have our three. Doesn't seem like they were chosen for any specific reasons. So it's like Randall, Marielle, and Julie, which I think is interesting too, because you pick two people from the bus and one person that's been in town for a little while. So it's like, it feels like it's significant, especially in the grand scheme of things, because it's like, I was so certain, and obviously a lot of people were certain, like, oh man, there's going to be a lot of red shirts. Obviously, like, most of the red shirts in the bus situation got wiped out pretty early on. I was pretty sure Randall was going to fall into that category, jumping ahead a little bit. Him being alive at the end was super surprising. I was like, oh, like I thought maybe he'd be the one that died and maybe like Mariel and Julie lived, but we'll have to wait and see. But there's nothing no one can do for them, but in their conditions, they are dying. And, you know, Jade said something that really sparked with Boyd, where it's like, yeah, we all have these, like, there's so many pieces to this, but it's like, how are you supposed to put together a puzzle where you have like a, you know, for one, an idea of what it's supposed to be, and also all the pieces. It's like you don't even have corner pieces to work with. All you have is like all these middle pieces you have to try and figure out how they piece together. So Boyd goes out in the woods with Sarah and Kenny because it's like, maybe there's something we can do. Maybe Sarah can give us some insight into this because of not riddle, but what was that, the bus driver, she called it something specifically. It's like, oh yeah, she heard this, like, it's kind of like a nursery rhyme. I think that's what she specifically referred to it as. And it's like, obviously Sarah had a very special connection to this place because she's like, right, she also saw the boy in white who's now popping up in other people's dreams. Prior to that, the only people who ever revealed himself to was, because I don't think Ethan's seen him in a long time. And it's not until he started popping up for Ethan is when he started popping up for Victor again, because Victor hadn't seen him probably since he was a little kid himself. So why did he wait so long then? I guess because things in this, as Victor keeps pointing out, things in this place keep changing to the point he keeps, you know, he always measures the trees and he's like, yeah, it almost seems like they're moving. And later on, when he's looking for the bottle tree, he's like, no, it should be here. It's like, is he just turned around, or is it like, no, the forest is literally constantly moving and shifting? And he does seem like he's referenced that time and time again with like some of the measurements he's taken around Ethan. Like, yeah, like things are changing. This place is changing because it never changes at all. It stayed the same in all the decades he's been here. But it's like now, for whatever reason, things are starting to crack because the people here are starting to have an effect on this place, or maybe because of the effect this place is having on certain people, it's causing this place to either, hey, maybe it's a thing of this place has gotten strong enough over the years. Now it's time for things to change. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit later. Well, I'll go ahead and talk about it. There's a conversation later on because Sarah's theory was, hey, this place feeds on fear, but then later on Boyd sees Abby, and her suggestion is, no, this place feeds on hope, because it almost feels like a Danganronpa situation, because, you know, the whole hope and despair of like, oh no, I want you to feel such hope so that when I rip it away from you, all you do is drown in despair. It's like, give me that hope. Because it's like the more you fight, the more you struggle to survive, the stronger this place gets. And maybe that's why it's changing now, because it's gotten more powerful over the years. All the people that have come through, all the people that have died, all their hopes, all their dreams, all that they hold on to, the more you hope in this place needs you to hope. It needs you to believe, because if you do, you make it stronger. So maybe that's the justification. It's kind of like I said, the opposite side of the spectrum of what, you know, Sarah believed. This place fed on your fears. So I think that's kind of interesting. But either way, this place has Sarah has such an interesting place in all of this, because she's out there and all of a sudden, like, that being around like that place that Boyd came out of starts having an effect on her. Her nose starts bleeding. She's getting like a headache. She can hear the music box, which immediately her being like, I can still hear it, specifically in that spot. I was like, that's why it's popping up in everyone's dreams. Boyd never destroyed it when he left, so it's been open this entire. He literally opened Pandora's box and never closed it, and it's been open, and that's why everything kind of falls out the way it has this season. Even like, it's like, oh, you brought it back. with you. So I think it's not just like the music box because he left it open. It's probably a conjunction with that and the bugs that was under his skin. Like, you brought that back, and it's like, right, you played into our hands. Like, you're the reason why that played out the way it did. And she's even talking to Kenny of like, we enjoyed it when we touched your skin, you know. So the music box needs to be destroyed, but it is essentially in another dimension, and they can't. It's in a pocket dimension, and Boyd can't get to it. He can't see it, but Sarah can hear it, which I think is interesting considering. I wonder. Well, what I was about to say, because Boyd is the one. Maybe because if Boyd still had the bugs, maybe he'd see it. But like, everyone else is seeing it mainly in their dreams and these visions, but Sarah's the only one that doesn't even need it. She's just like, nah, I'm like so in tune. I mean, this place took an interest in her. It's the one that reached out to her, made her see stuff, made her like try and kill Ethan, made her kill Kenny's dad and everything. And then, you know, all that accidentally led her killing her brother. But still, like, this place in particular likes her. So maybe that connection, once again, the place is kind of, it has deeper connections for some people, like an Elgin, like a Victor, like an Ethan, and even a Tabitha. But other people seem to play their own special roles, like a Boyd. So, but they didn't get any answers they were hoping for. But now they know it's like, right, we just got to destroy the music box. It's like connected to all of this, and I think it's interesting Kenny's perspective on it, where it's like, you know, and this plays into the whole conversation because Christy's like, right, I allowed myself to hope and believe that like maybe we could get out of here like the moment Mario got off that bus, but it's like, no, I was deluding myself. And Kenny's like, maybe we're not meant to get here. Maybe all the people that are, we're not meant to leave here. Maybe all the people that are stuck here are stuck for a reason, that we were never going to go home. But we make it a little easier for the next group. It's like, it's not about us. It's about any future people that get stuck here. Little by little, we are chipping away. It's almost like a time loop where it's like every loop you're figuring out more and more and more about the situation. What if it's a similar thing of like, with every person that dies here, with every person that gets stuck here, more and more of the puzzle gets figured out. So, because the way he talks about like, right, you can't see the sweater because you're a thread. I think it's supposed to be like, oh, you can't see the forest because of the trees type of things. Kind of like, hey, you're so focused in like your own world, you're not willing to see everything else. I mean, that was literally one of the titles. Wasn't it this season? Wasn't it like episode 7 or something? For the forest for the trees or something like that? Or was it a different show? I want to say it was this show. So it's like, yeah, I mean, that, but it's like they used a sweater metaphor. It's what Kenny learned from his dad. So we have Jade going, you know, well, for one, he was trying to look at things from a different perspective and gets haunted by Tom. And so, well, you wouldn't be the first one haunted by a ghost. Boy's seen quite a few of them. And now I'm wondering, like, is that this place kind of giving them hope? So, like, Khatri being there, was that Boyd losing his mind, or was it like this play, like Abby was specific, but I don't know if Khatri was the same thing of like, let's wear a face and voice that is familiar to you. I don't know if that ends up being the case, or could Khatri and Tom be the boy in white? Could he be disguising himself like, right, it's going to be, you're not going to really listen to me, but then it's like, if that was the boy in white, in both those cases of being Khatri talking to Boyd or Tom talking to Jade, then why would he present himself to Tabitha as a kid? But maybe it's because she needs that because of the whole Thomas of it all. Maybe that's the correlation in that regard. I don't know. I could be reading way too much into that, but going back to the Jade of it all, Tom is talking to him and kind of gives a different perspective on things. I even love that conversation of like, right, you know where to find answers. And yeah, it's a dangerous place. And even then, it's a big if you'll actually get any answers. But he kind of made a metaphor of like kind of comparing it to the body. It's like the most important, precious things are kind of tucked away behind something. So it's like, right, the brain is in the skull, the heart is behind your rib cage. I thought that was really interesting. So I even love Tom commenting on, you changed kind of like the alcohol and stuff like that and made it better. So it's like, right. I think it is interesting that place kind of became his sanctuary. And it's like, yeah, because he had talked about like, right, Tom, you went in there trying to help Tabitha, but she wasn't even in there. But for him, it's like, yeah, but I would still do it again because, I didn't have time to think about the moral philosophy of it all. Of like, the trolley situation. It's like, no, someone was in danger. And it's like, that's what's happening now. There's a girl over there, a 16-year-old girl, you even said it yourself, who should be like focusing on like a prom dress or something at this point in time in her life, not worried about this. She's in trouble and you might be able to help. So he goes inside the hole and he goes into those caverns. He sees the doll, and then all of a sudden he starts seeing those kids, and they're on what kind of looks like sacrificial like slabs of just kind of stone, and just they're in a circle, and they're like saying that thing they were saying to Tabitha, was it like Akui or something like that, which I'm like, is that the monster's name or something? Is that them kind of stuck in a sequence of like worshiping it? But Jay looks up and he sees like an opening, and like it almost looks like branches forming the symbol he's looking at, but then like he snaps to it and it's like there is no hole there, it's covered up. So I guess maybe all those years ago when those kids were here, maybe, back when like Victor was younger, maybe that hole was open, but maybe over the years it's gotten eroded and covered in or something like that. I don't know. But I don't know what answer that really gave Jade. Like, I don't know if it gave him some perspective on it. Not quite sure what to make of that. And speaking of Tabitha, Jim ends up, he's scared for it because it's like, right, I thought I figured this place out, and the moment I thought I had a suggestion, I almost got myself killed. I almost got Donna killed. So, yeah. But for Tabitha, it's like, no, this situation's a little different. His circumstances is like, that's his rationale. She's been seeing these kids. She's also she's had these dreams about this tower. So it is a little different because as we can tell with the dreams, they do mean something, as everyone's like, especially Elgin's dream ended up mattering and Kenny's dream ended up mattering, especially at a time where, hey, our dreams are killing us. Like, it does matter in the end. So it is a different circumstance. So Tabitha does go, and has Victor lead their way. We found out that he says that his mom never made it into the tree. And it's like, what happened to her? Did the monsters get to her? And what about your sister? Now, Tabitha's story makes me think we might know where. Well, I'll go ahead and talk about like the ending of it then, because I do want to jump. I'd rather kind of save that in, but I'll talk about it since we're right here. This is also going to be leading me to spoil something else. I don't think it's exactly the same as something else I was about. I don't want to spoil it. There's a certain series that kind of has a thing of, hey, when this is all over, you wake up type of situation. Like, I guess the easiest one, without spoiling that, I guess the easiest thing would be like the Wizard of Oz. I guess they're Wizard of Ozing this a little bit, where it's like, oh, Dorothy woke up, it's like, oh, was it all a dream or was it real type of situation? Tabitha getting to the top of the tower, which is interesting because like the moment she was outside the tower, it was like, it's interesting. It looks like a lighthouse. And so it's like a flame in the center, and the kid's like, I'm sorry, I have to do this because it's the only way. Pushes out the window. I was like, what the I was like, I was thinking the entire time she's coming up, and it's like, there's no way they're going to kill her, because if they killed her, what would be the point of sending her on this journey? But it's like, whoa, I was like, there's no way that kid just did that. And then she woke up in the hospital. I was like, it's not that it was all a dream. I'm like, is it a thing of, now you're starting to think like, wait, do you actually have to die to wake up in this place? But it's like, no, that can't be the case. Because it's like, because Abby was the one that was pushing the whole point of, hey, this place is like a dream or whatever. All you have to do is die to wake up. But it's like, is that actually the case? Like, that's what, but then it's like, Tabitha was found on the side of a road. So you're like, right, somehow that kid pushed her out of this world. Like, is it a thing of he doesn't have the strength to do it to everyone, but he had to make a point of like, right, this is the only way. You have to leave because your only way this situation can be tackled is from the outside, which immediately, obviously, it's like this show has lost parallels. You're immediately like, we have to go back. We have to go back, Kate. whole situation, right? So it's like Tabitha's exactly in that situation. It's like she was found on the side of the road 3 days ago, and you're like, Jesus, and that's the heartbreaking thing. This would be the end of a horror movie where it says, if you've seen The Mist, that's the example I gotta go back to, because everyone can generally say like, Jesus, that is an effed up way to end that. So it's kind of like that to an extent where it's just like, this is an effed up horror. Like, this could be the end of a horror movie where, no, all those people are trapped. I don't know how I could get back or something. I mean, I'm sure it would probably be like, you can make a sequel later to kind of like fill that in of like, hey, I'm trying to go back or whatever. I mean, obviously, like I said, it's more direct lost parallel, but that's horrifying when it's like your entire family's back there and you're the only one that got out and you can't tell anyone because no one's actually going to believe you. So it's like, right, do you try and find the tree again? And even if you do find the tree again, can you actually get back in? It's going to be like the big rub of it all. So, because you can't explain that to no one because everyone else is going to think you're fucking crazy, So it feels like that had to be done because this is a situation that can only be tackled from both sides because no one's probably ever escaped this place before. Maybe we'll get to that in a second. But if no one's ever really escaped this place before, maybe it is a situation of there's no way you have to tackle it from both sides. Anyone that ever gets stuck there and they died there. So no one on the outside has any information about it. Now, the other thing I was wondering about is, well, because we know that, oh God, Victor's like, yeah, my mom never made it. Maybe it's a situation of maybe his sister did. Maybe his sister's in the outside world and maybe Tabitha's going to run into her. Like maybe she's in like a mental institution because everyone thinks she's crazy or whatever. But maybe she's older and maybe like in the future, like Tabitha will meet her, like, where she is at that hospital or, run into her and they'll probably work together to go back. Maybe. I don't know. Because we still don't know whatever, like, it's like, are those kids still, well, because she heard the kids, but she didn't see them actually in the tower. So it might be a thing of maybe kind of like the music box. It's in a pocket dimension. So it's like they're there. You just can't see them. You just need to do the trick that Boyd did. That's what I'm wondering. So that's kind of like the biggest like stinger at the end there. So other things to kind of tackle. Reggie, I figured something unhinged was going to happen with Reggie. I just thought he was going to unalive himself. I didn't know he was going to like try and, but the moment he was talking to Ellis, he was like, yeah, it's no one's fault. And he looked at Ellis, he was like, yeah, no one's fault. I was like, that doesn't sound ominous. My thought was like, oh, he's going to blame Boyd in them because it's like, hey, you knew a little bit ahead of time about the dream thing, but to be fair, they don't know how long Boyd and the others knew, so you can't really comment on that. But he blamed Boyd because Boyd's the one that all this started the moment you came back from the woods, and it's like, I'm sorry, I really liked you, and Boyd had to put Reggie down. It's like, Jesus. It's like, well, he already had to be, I think it's just kind of especially after that point, he had just run into Abby. It's just, no, he hadn't run into Abby yet. It's like, well, he had run into Abby, like, obviously, was that last episode? Yes. So it is kind of like that sucks. I've had to put someone else down because of this whole situation, so. But, Fatima and, Ellis get married. It's kind of a beautiful small ceremony, the only people there, and I think it's probably the people who matter the most is Boyd and Donna, so I think it's like it's most important that they were there, because Donna said something important when Boyd was kind of having his breakdown at the church, because it's like he's screaming out, like, is there really a God out there? Because it's like, do you enjoy, are you laughing at us going through this? Because Khatri, even at the very end, he believed that he was here for a reason. What was the last thing he was doing with his dying breath? Praying. And were you even up there? Were you even listening? Like, why did you put us here? Why are we even here? And Donna's saying like, right, none of us know how much time we have because things are getting worse. And obviously it's like, what's happening, because Sarah had said that the moment Julie, Marielle, and Randall die from this, it's going to set off a cataclysmic thing of, well, not cataclysmic, but it's going to be a domino effect of things are going to get much, much worse. So it's like, right, we don't know how much time we have here, so let's kind of enjoy what we do have, and that ended up being the wedding. But Ellis's speech to Fatima, like, ended up giving him the idea to go back in the woods. I guess, now I don't know if it's supposed to be like, okay, so is it the torches that are special? Because he had the torch when he came out, but I think the torch, like, blew out the moment he left the tower, so that's how you get in and out. Granted, he didn't have the torch when he left, like, at the end of this, during his section of the episode when he left, he didn't have it, so it might not be possible to go back in there. Probably like a thing of, you don't want to go back in there because you might fall into that trap again. But, he lights up the torch and he immediately pops into the tower where I was like, is Martin going to be here? It's like, no, but it's Marielle, Randall, and Julie. So I'm wondering, like, did the exact same thing happen to Martin? And so does that mean when it was all said and done, would all three of them have been here with those bugs underneath their skin because the things that are covering them, like, but that no one else can see them because those things exist in a pocket dimension. It's like, hey, you can hear them, but you can't see them. Like, only, like, the victims that were chosen could kind of see it. Like, Boyd. I mean, to be fair, Boyd could see what's under his skin, and everyone else eventually could, too. So, I wonder would have it repeated itself. So, they would have been stuck there and unable to die until someone took it out of their blood, like he put it in Boyd. So, but Abby shows up, and it's like, is it really Abby, or is it this place disguising itself as Abby and telling him to, hey, they're suffering. They're going to suffer so much more. If you save them, you're just going to prolong all of this. It's like they're going to live today, but they're just going to die tomorrow. It's going to happen eventually. You won't be able to save everyone. You can't be a hero. He beats himself up, especially because he just had that speech with himself earlier, like that he thought he could help people. He was trying to play the role of a hero, but it's like it feels like every time he tries to help, he feels like he makes things worse, that he gets people killed. But despite everything, that what Donna said and what Ellis and Fatima are having, it's like right. We don't know what tomorrow brings, but having one more day means a lot. So giving each and every one of them one more day, then that's at least one more day. So he ends up smashing and burning the music box, and he leaves. And it's like, right, you're not going to break me. You hear me? You're not going to break me. And this place is trying its darn hardest. And now obviously he runs into the dog. And he's like, I haven't seen you since last season. So have you been running around the woods this entire time? What's going on? And it just feels very poetic that he's like almost here to guide you after that. So I guess we're done with that. Like, it's now to also correlate to that. I guess, so those towers do seem like they're two different towers. I mean, maybe that's not even technically a tower. Maybe it's just kind of supposed... Because I was like, it doesn't have, like, but it does have, like, that deep, like, chimney, like, well. So I'm like, it does feel tower-esque, but maybe it never was a tower. So that's why they specify, like, where Tabitha was going as the tower, because that wasn't a tower. Maybe it was just kind of a stone building, But Julie's awake, Randall's awake, and Mario. Like I said, I wasn't expecting Randall to also survive this, but all of them are awake. So it's like, oh, that's good. But none of them are going to know about what happened to Tabitha, especially if she doesn't come back. It's like, Jesus, like, what's going to happen on that front? And Victor's going to feel bad because he's the one that told Tabitha about it. And it's like, right, my mom already died, and now I feel responsible for getting Ethan and Julie's moms killed. So, but we now know, like, no, there's more to her circumstances, obviously. But it's like, what does that mean? I have no idea where this will all take us. At the time we're recording this, MGM Plus has not renewed this for a third season yet. Hopefully they do. Because I got to know where the hell this is going to go. Like, where next season, a potential third season, is going to take us with all of this. Feels like we still really don't have any answers. Once again, like, Boyd is talking about he needs rules to this place, but it seems like the game is constantly changing on them because this place is constantly changing. And now knowing, like, hey, this place feeds on hope, are you going to tell the others about it? Because it does seem like this whole, you can't sleep and the buzzing have all gone now because the music boxes stopped. But it's like, geez, the more we dive into this place, the more we have to be careful, because obviously if we dive too deeply into it, this place will screw with us and, like, we'll have a whole other issue to deal with. So But does he tell the group about, hey, hope, being hopeful, even though hope is the only thing keeping people going and keeping them alive, it's what's feeding this place. But it's like, probably not going to tell them that because he doesn't want anyone to lose hope. He needs them to be hopeful. It's the only way they're going to survive, but it makes this place that much stronger. So I wonder will we eventually see other people, because we know Donna had a sister that died here, so, and Kenny had his dad die here, so maybe they will eventually start seeing them, maybe in the future, just like Boyd's being seeing Abby, because it needs to convince, because it feels like the place is reaching out specifically to Boyd, because it wants him to stop, but it's like, is it asking him to stop because it's like, oh, I want you to like rebel against me more and be more hopeful, or is he stepping in the right direction? And it's just like, if I can break you, I can break everybody, because you are one of the foundations for this place. And the moment you crumble, this all crumbles. So, because once again, this place hasn't taken such a special interest in Victor because maybe it doesn't think of Victor as anything special, but I don't know, man. We'll ultimately have to wait and see. Hopefully the show's coming back for a third season because I'd love to see where all this would end up taking us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and good